Hello and welcome to the C3 Method podcast. Today we're going to talk about legal concerns around nutrition coaching. C3 Method helps other trainers and health-related business owners by teaching our nutrition coaching system to them. They can actually run that system then on their own, or at least they're aware of it. They understand how we run our system, and then they'll let us actually manage their clients and patients or customers, whatever type of customer label they give. So we partner with other personal trainers, gym owners, physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists, you name it. The list is long and we're really enjoying it. It's a fun adventure. When I started into personal training, I really liked being able to help people. That was the main motivator. It still is. However, what I realized was there was only so many people I could help in one day. That's actually what sparked me starting the podcast. Was I was able to help my in-person clients, but then I was able to actually reach other people. And for a while, a couple of years, I was actually counting my helps, is what I called them. And I would measure how many people watched our YouTube channel, listened to the podcast, people I would train in person or online, and whoever I communicated with that day, however many views or subscribers or likes I got, I would actually count those up. And that was really motivating and very exciting. What's been an evolution of that goal has been to help other trainers. Over half of our one-on-one clients are personal trainers, which is fun because then every time I help them, I'm helping everybody that they help. And then the nutrition coaching system was a further evolution of that, is every time I'm able to help another trainer or other health-related business owner learn how to safely, properly, effectively implement nutrition coaching, I'm able to help everybody that they help as well. So it's really cool to think of the helps that have been able to be increased over time. I find that extremely motivating, very exciting, and it's something that fires me up every day to wake up and do something awesome in order to be able to reach and help more people. One of the things that have come up is as we've been teaching the nutrition coaching system into other professions, such as physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists, some of their concerns have been around legal issues when managing nutrition for their clients and customers. One of the ways that we address this head on is we actually don't give advice regarding specific foods. The way our system is structured is we take the current FDA accepted guidelines and recommendations. We are going to organize them and then prioritize them. So we're taking information that's legally kind of accepted and out there in the world that everybody can use, and we're just saying, hey, out of all of these things that you could do, here are the ones that make the most sense for you. Here's how they make the most sense for you. And let's focus on this first, see if you can figure this stuff out. I'll help you actually implement like habits, creating habit systems. How do we have food availability, managing Instacart, Amazon? How do we grocery shop effectively? How do we avoid buying things we shouldn't be buying or don't want to be buying? So number one rule is don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry, things like that. So we're managing legally accepted information. We're going to organize it, prioritize it. We're also focusing on implementation and accountability. So it's not just the numbers that people need. When you think about a nutrition program, what most people are used to is eat this at this time. And that is not what our system is built around, because that's not what most people struggle with. Eat this at this time is too narrowed and it's unnecessarily restrictive. It's also just not universally applicable to most people. Instead, what we want to say is, okay, here's the right amount of food, like in this general range, that seems to be correct for you. Then, here are the types of foods that do different roles that we need throughout the day. So protein is body repair, maintenance, and building muscle. And then we have carbohydrates for faster energy and fats for slower energy. So we know that those foods do those things. Okay, so when I have a meal during the day, I want to make sure that I'm managing muscle repair. And if my goal is muscle growth and I'm lifting weights, I want to make sure I have enough protein available for that as well. So we're going to take the accepted recommendations for protein and say, hey, let's spread that across these meals. Where within that range are you experiencing your best results? If it's a little bit low in the range, we're not seeing what we want, we're having slow recovery, then we're going to bump it up within that range. So that's basically giving recommendations on, okay, we know protein does this. Here's the general recommended amount. What are you experiencing? And then let's make some adjustments. Same thing with carbohydrates and fats. We know what they do. And then in this meal, do we need energy now? That's probably going to be better for us to lean into carbohydrates. Do we need energy just slow, steady, sustained because maybe we're sitting on our butt on a computer? Then fats would probably be the better choice. Now, what specific type of carbohydrates is really a matter of personal preference. There are some nuances that can be involved for sure, but in general, there's a lot of specific food options. What we're looking to do with nutrition coaching is say, here's a general amount that seems to be best for you. When you eat less than this, you notice that you have crappy energy, your mood is low, poor recovery, so we probably want to eat above that. But if we eat too much, we gain unwanted body fat. So we probably want to eat below that. So we find this range, and then that's where we're going to stay. Then we organize our protein, our carbohydrates, our fats, and then we also think about distribution throughout the day. What does your schedule look like? How can we be consistent from day to day based on your schedule? We're then going to look at hydration. Are we drinking enough compared to what the normal recommendations are? Same thing with calories. Make sure we're getting to at least a minimum, but then not excessively too much to where it feels like a burden and it's unnecessary. Then we're looking at implementation. So we now know how much to eat in a general range, what to eat in general types of foods. How do we pick the foods that we can be consistent with? How do we prep these foods? Do I need foods that need to be prepped quickly because I don't have time to cook? Or do I have time to cook, but maybe I should cook 2 portions so that way I can use the extra portion for a meal later that day or the next day? So we're looking at implementation is one of the key components involved with nutrition coaching. So it's not just eat this at this time. We do have some of those types of numbers and generalities when it comes to foods, but we also have the system that we need in order to implement and actually follow those foods and eat the way that we want. Then we also have accountability. That's one of the biggest benefits of nutrition coaching, is having someone that when you're doing the right things, someone sees that and you have this sense of reward and being like, yeah, they can see my efforts. I know this matters to someone. And if I mess up, that's kind of helpful as well, as they're going to see that. And I know I can lean into them and ask them for advice, but I also just don't want to have them see me mess things up. So that accountability is really helpful. And then you have support. And that can come in the form of mental, emotional support or just being there for somebody. If they're experiencing struggles, they can then voice those struggles to you. You can say, man, yeah, I hear you. That's really tough. Sometimes just having someone listen is extremely helpful. This is actually something Meredith and I do for each other, is whenever we're sharing information, the other person can say, well, do you want me to just listen right now, or are you looking for advice? And it's really fun because sometimes you just want to voice a concern, maybe talk through a thought process. I find that very helpful to do with Meredith, is if I'm thinking through something, whether it's personal or business, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I just talk out loud to you? And often as I'm just saying it to her, I realize something and I'm like, that's the answer I was looking for. That was the thing that I couldn't figure out. So sometimes being able to have just somebody listen to us is very nice. And that can be one of the benefits of doing nutrition coaching for someone, is just being there to support them. When you think of advice, you can give advice as much as they would get advice from a friend, a family member, anyone online. If they're struggling, for example, with food consistency, you might have somebody say, oh man, on the weekends, I just go off my plan. It's so bad. And you'd say, what do you think is the problem? Like, why do you think that might happen? oh, I run out of food. I get I look in the fridge and the normal foods I have aren't there. Maybe I have this meal, but not this food, and this thing, but not that thing. And it's like, well, why do you think that might be? And then they'll say, oh, I just didn't get the grocery shop this week. Normally I go grocery shopping Thursdays after work, but my kids had an event and I missed that day. It's like, well, maybe this week you could do Instacart. Maybe you could use Amazon. Maybe next time you go grocery shopping, if you know you're common to miss a day or two, let's buy an extra day or two. Now, obviously non-perishables, so that way if you don't need them, they don't go bad right away. That was one of the negatives I found when I was in college, and I would try to implement more fruits and vegetables into my diet. Typical college kid, you're running around crazy, trying to do everything you can. I had 20 plus hour credits, semesters, and then 2 jobs. So often I was throwing away more vegetables than I was actually eating. That was very frustrating. So when you're trying to buy quote unquote extra food, you want to buy extra of the non-perishable type foods. And then that's the type of advice that you can give to a client. So when you're a nutrition coach, if your fear is the legal concerns, you don't have to fear. No need to worry. We're going to be using accepted and available to all recommendations. You're just going to be organizing and prioritizing for that individual. You're also going to help them with implementation support, accountability support, and then that emotional, mental support where if somebody just needs to complain, express, vent, whatever it might be, you're there to listen. And then if they're asking for advice, you're there to give them advice as well. So that is the basic overview of how our nutrition coaching system works and how we address the legal concern. As long as you're not giving the advice of eat this at this time, where you're giving them specific foods, specific amounts, as long as you're not doing that, there really isn't much of a legal concern. The benefit is giving diets in those parameters is completely unnecessary. Even for clients that I get ready for bodybuilding type shows, if they're getting on stage, like there's tons of categories. There's like fit model, fitness, bikini, wellness, women's physique, there's figure, if I didn't already say that. There's about 4,000 categories of all these things. But in those competitions, their foods have to be very strict in order to get them incredibly lean. We're talking about under 10% body fat. Their veins are going to have lip veins, that kind of leanness. When we're getting to that level of lean, even with those clients, there are food options. Of all the clients I've helped get IFBB Pro Cards and Natural Pro Cards, none of them ate the same foods. It doesn't have to be, eggs and oatmeal for breakfast and chicken and rice for lunch and dinner. We actually like to, and I prefer to, use foods they already eat, foods that are already part of their normal routine, as much as possible. We might have to adjust a few things here or there. But I like to give them options because food preference is extremely important, not only for an aesthetic athlete to get super lean, a performance athlete to be able to perform their best, whatever the person's goal might be, whether it's building muscle, losing fat. Specific foods don't need to be specific. They don't need to be given. You can take what the person's eating, reorganize it a little bit. Maybe they don't have enough protein, so you add a little bit of protein. Maybe they're mistiming their carbs and fats, so you just might rearrange those a little bit. There are variants from day to day with calories. That's often one of the bigger problems that people struggle with, is they'll just undereat one day, severely overeat the next, then undereat again because they knew they overate. And it's just this wild inconsistency with caloric intake. If we can just narrow down that inconsistency, that often helps a ton towards body composition management, let alone they're going to have better energy, better mood, better digestion. They're also going to have better control over daily weight variance, daily performance variance. There's a lot of benefits whenever you can just narrow down the variance that they have just simply in calories per day, let alone not even having to worry about changing protein, carbs, and fats yet. And then most people are dehydrated. So most people don't drink enough fluids. So that's definitely a big focus for us as well. That is essentially what we're looking to do is what are the biggest bang for our buck type behaviors that we can do? Not have as much variance per day in our calories, make sure we have a moderate amount of protein, kind of anywhere within a normal recommended range. We want to be somewhere in that range. We also then want to have good hydration. Usually for most people, if they address those three things, they're going to achieve what they want. That's going to help a lot. And then from there, it's going to be driving the foods up or down to manipulate their weight and or to manage recovery, adaptations, those type of elements. And then it's just helping them actually make all this stuff happen. And that's where we talked about the implementation, the accountability, and then the emotional, mental support. Being there to listen and being there to offer just general application advice. So for those who would be interested in our nutrition coaching system, but if you're worried about the legal concerns, hopefully by listening to today's podcast, you realize there isn't that much of a concern. We've been able to implement this successfully with dozens and dozens of types of businesses, and definitely not only dietitians and nutritionists. So it's been really successful. It's been really fun. Along with our system, not only do we teach how we do the system, we also teach how to market it, what are the pricing considerations, and then we offer a 3-month support. So as you're trying to implement these concepts with clients, you can always reach out and ask us any questions. We help clarify things. We'll even deep dive into the person's information to make sure we have everything right and correct specifically for them. So not only do we have the system education, but we also have the system support. If you're interested in that, you can go to our website, www.c3method.com, the 3 spelled out T-H-R-E-E, so it's C-T-H-R-E-E method.com. You can see kind of our partnerships there, the companies we've worked with, a little bit of a breakdown of my history if you want to learn a little bit more about me and why I feel comfortable being able to teach this to people. It's a 25-year plus career, 3,000 plus clients. I've taught at the university level. I have a bunch of different degrees. So a lot of educational along the way, so formal education, experiential education. It's been a fun journey, and I'm excited to continue this journey in this way. So if you have any questions, if you want to learn anything more, just go to our website, c3method.com. You can also reach out to us on whatever platform you're listening or watching this on. We have our podcast platform, which is available on most podcast platforms. So iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, all the things that are out there in the world. So we're on all of them that I'm aware of. We also have our YouTube channel, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. However you find us, I hope you can find us, but the website definitely works. You can go there. And if you need anything, just make sure you reach out. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. And I want to make sure that you always feel supported as well. Okay, that's everything. Quick and simple. If you need anything, let us know. That's all. Okay. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.